I'm Brenda.
And I'm Charmy, and we're just two crazy chicks with an opinion and a channel.
If you like true crime, conspiracy, and supernatural shit, then this is your channel. Today's topic is a creepypasta.
A creepypasta,
Yeah.
a scary spaghetti, a freaky fettuccine.
No. A creepypasta is basically a made-up spooky story that some people think could be true.
Ooh.
Some creepypastas are seen as conspiracies, but I'll let you guys be the judge of that. So today's creepypasta is called The No End House.
The No End House.
Yeah.
That sounds
Actually,
creepy.
there's a show off of it. I haven't watched the show, but they made a show based off of this story, so I'm just gonna tell you, I read the story and it just gets crazier and crazier as it keeps going, and you're gonna be like, what the heck? So
Knock my shoes off.
girl, they about to fly across the room. So let us begin. Warning, the nature of this podcast is gruesome and disturbing. It contains graphic language. Viewers' discretion advised. Before I start, I just want to say this story is credited to Brian Russell. So, you guys,
Let's begin.
Let's get this going. Let me start by saying Peter Terry was addicted to heroin. We were friends in college and continued to be after I graduated. Notice that I said I. He dropped out after 2 years of barely cutting it. After I moved out of the dorms and into a small apartment, I didn't see Peter as much. We would talk online every now and then. There was a period where he wasn't online for about 5 weeks straight. I wasn't worried. He was pretty notorious flake and drug addict, so I assumed that he stopped caring. Then one night I saw him log on. Before I could initiate the conversation, he sent me a message. David, man, we need to talk. That was when he told me about the No End House. Okay, FYI, you guys, if you're my friend and you ever invite me to a No End House, just know that I'm blocking you on site. No, don't do it.
This gives me trust issues.
No, for real, because why would I want to be in the No End House?
Like, what?
I'm sorry, I like finite things, so I need it to end. But anyway, it got the name because no one ever reached the final exit. See, why, as my friend, why would you do this to me?
They ain't no friend.
Right.
They ain't no friend.
Man, he set him up. The rules are pretty simple and cliche. Reach the final room of the building and you win $500. There were 9 rooms in all.
Wait, all this for $500?
Yeah, girl.
There ain't enough. You need to put more zeros up on that.
First of all, each room ain't even $100. But anyway, let's keep going.
I need more than that.
Right. There was 9 rooms in all. The house was located outside the city, roughly 4 miles from my house. Apparently, Peter had tried it and failed. He was a heroin addict, and who knows what the fuck else. So I figured the drugs got the best of him, and he wigged out at a paper ghost or something. He told me it would be too much for anyone, that it was unnatural. I didn't believe him. I told him I would check it out the next night, and no matter how hard he tried to convince me otherwise, $500 sounded too good to be true. I had to go. I set out the following night. When I arrived, I immediately noticed something strange about the building.
I don't know. Like, why?
When your gut is telling you no,
Don't
run.
do it.
Like, seriously, run. Because, yeah, if you feel that, yeah, just go.
Adrenaline?
Yeah, like that uneasy feeling.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, something's not right. You just dip. You know, it's not worth $500.
It really isn't.
Now, $5 million, I might tell you to go through there. But $500, nah.
What's the survival rate? That's what I need to know.
Right. Obviously, it's not very high because nobody has got to the end.
It's some Squid Game shit right here.
No, for real. Have you ever seen or read something that shouldn't be scary, but for some reason a chill crawls up your spine? I walked towards the building, and the feeling of uneasiness only intensified as I opened the front door. Red flag. That's your first strike right there.
Well, I'm curious. Is this around a neighborhood, or is it just a house on the end of the
It
street?
doesn't
Abandoned
say.
street? Like,
I don't know. This house just appeared out of nowhere. It's like Narnia, like.
Yeah, you don't know where it is if you're not looking for it.
Right. My heart slowed, and I let a relieved sigh leave me as I entered. The room looked like a normal hotel lobby decorated for Halloween. A sign was posted in place of a worker. It read, "Room 1 this way. 8 more to follow. Reach the end and you win." I chuckled and made my way to the first door. The first area was almost laughable. The decor resembled the Halloween aisle of a Kmart, complete with sheep ghosts and animatronic zombies that gave a static growl when you passed by. At the far end was an exit. It was the only door besides the one I entered through. I brushed through the fake spider webs and headed for the second room. I was greeted by fog as I opened the door to room 2. The room definitely upped the ante in terms of technology. Not only was there a fog machine, but a bat hung from the ceiling and flew in a circle. Scary. They seemed to have a Halloween soundtrack that one would find in the 99-cent store on loop somewhere in the room. I didn't see a stereo, but I guess they must have used a PA system. I stepped over a few toy rats that wheeled around and walked with a puff chest across the next area. I reached for the doorknob and my heart sank into my knees. I did not want to open the door. A feeling of dread hit me so hard I could barely even think. Logic overtook me after a few terrified moments, and I shook it off and entered the next room. Room 3 is when things began to change. On the surface, it looked like a normal room. There was a chair in the middle of a wood-paneled floor. A single lamp in the corner did a poor job of lighting the area, casting a few shadows across the floor and walls. That was the problem. Shadows, plural. With the exception of the chair, there was others. I had barely walked in the door, and I was already terrified. It was at that moment that I knew something wasn't right. I didn't think as I automatically tried to open the door I came through. It was locked from the other side.
That's the moment you decided something wasn't right?
Right. Like, gut feelings, you on your third warning of gut feelings, and you now deciding that, this was not a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only going to get worse for you. That set me off. Was someone locking the doors as I progressed? There was no way. I would have heard them. Was it a mechanical lock that set automatically? Maybe. But I was too scared to really think. I turned back to the room and the shadows were gone. The chair's shadow remained, but the others were gone. I slowly began to walk. I used to hallucinate when I was a kid, so I wrote off the shadows as a figment of my imagination. I began to feel better as I made it to the halfway point of the room. I looked down as I took my steps, and that's when I saw it. Or didn't see it. My shadow wasn't there. I didn't have time to scream. I ran as fast as I could to the other door and flung myself without thinking into the room beyond. The fourth room was possibly the most disturbing. As I closed the door, all light seemed to be sucked out and put back into the previous room. I stood there, surrounded by darkness, not able to move. I'm not afraid of the dark, and never have been, but I was absolutely terrified. All sight had left me. Hell nah. Anybody who knows me knows that when my sense of sight is gone, I'm gone.
I start freaking out.
Seriously, like me and my friend did an escape room and they put a bag over my head and I was like, I'll close my eyes. I promise you, I'll close my eyes, but please don't put this bag over my head. Like, I can't. Like, I need at least my sense of sight, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will freak out. I would have died of a heart attack right then and there. Especially alone, I would have died.
Yeah. You got that 500.
Nope. I really wouldn't have. I held my hand in front of my face, and I didn't know what I was doing. I would have never been able to tell. Darkness doesn't describe it. I couldn't hear anything. It was dead silent. When you're in a soundproof room, you can still hear yourself breathing. You can still hear yourself being alive. I couldn't. I began to stumble forward after a few moments, my rapidly beating heart the only thing I could feel. There was no door in sight. I wasn't even sure there was one this time. The silence was broken by a low hum. I felt something behind me. I spun around wildly, but I could barely even see my nose. I knew it was there. Regardless of how dark it was, I knew something was there. The hum grew louder, closer. It seemed to surround me. But I knew whatever was causing the noise was in front of me, inching closer. I took a step back. I had never felt that kind of fear. I couldn't describe true fear. I wasn't even scared I was going to die. I was scared of what the alternative was. I was afraid of whatever this thing had in store for me. Then the lights flashed for a second and I saw it. Nothing. I saw nothing. I know I saw nothing there. The room was again plunged into darkness and the hum became a wild screech. I screamed in protest. I couldn't hear this goddamn sound for another minute. I ran backwards, away from the noise, and I fumbled for the door handle. I turned and fell into room 5.
Damn.
Yeah, I know, like, And homie, you still got 4 more rooms to go, like. Before I describe room 5, you have to understand something. I am not a drug addict. I have never had no history of drug abuse or any type of psychosis short of the childhood hallucinations I mentioned earlier. And those were only when I was really tired or just woke up. I entered the no-end house with a clear head. After falling in from the previous room, my view of room 5 was from my back, looking up at the ceiling. What I saw didn't scare me, it simply surprised me. Trees had grown into the room and towered above my head. The ceilings in this room were taller than the others, which made me think I was in the center of the house. I got off the floor, dusted myself off, and took a look around. It was definitely the biggest room of them all. I couldn't even see the door from where I was. Various bush and trees must have blocked my line of sight with the exit. Up to this point, I figured the rooms were going to get scarier, but this was a paradise compared to the last room. I also assumed whatever was in room 4 stayed back there. I was incredibly wrong. As I made my way deeper into the room, I began to hear what one would hear if they were in a forest. Chirping bugs and the occasional flap of birds seemed to be my only company in this room. That was the thing that bothered me the most. I heard the bugs and the other animals, but I didn't see any of them. I began to wonder how big this house was. From the outside, when I first walked up to it, it looked like a regular house. It was definitely on the bigger side, but this was almost a complete forest here. The canopy covered my view of the ceiling, but I assumed it was still there, however high it was. I couldn't see any walls either. The only way I knew I was still inside that house was the floor matched the other room, the standard dark wood paneling. I kept walking, hoping that the next tree I passed would reveal the door. After a moment of walking, I felt a mosquito fly onto my arm. I shook it off and kept going. A second later, I felt about 10 more land on my skin at different places. I felt them crawl up and down my arms and legs, and a few made their way across my face. I flailed wildly to get them off, but they just kept crawling. I looked down and I let out a muffled scream, more of a whimper. To be honest, I didn't see a single bug. Not one bug was on me, but I could feel them crawl. I could hear them fly by my face and sting my skin, but I couldn't see a single one. I dropped to the ground and began to roll wildly. I was desperate. I hated bugs, especially ones I couldn't see or touch. But these bugs could touch me, and they were everywhere. I began to crawl. I had no idea where I was going. The only interest was nowhere in sight, and I still hadn't even found the exit. So I just crawled, my skin wriggling with the presence of those phantom bugs. After what seemed like hours, I found the door. I grabbed the nearest tree and propped myself up, mindlessly slapping my arms and legs to no avail. I tried to run, but I couldn't. My body was exhausted from crawling and dealing with whatever it was on me. I took a few shaky steps to the door, grabbed each tree on the way for support. It was only a few feet away when I heard it, the low hum from before. It was coming from the next room, and it was deeper. I almost felt it inside my body, like when you stand next to an amp at a concert. The feeling of the bugs on me lessened as the hum grew louder. As I placed my hand on the doorknob, the bugs were completely gone, but I couldn't bring myself to turn the knob. I knew that if I let go, the bugs would return, and there was no way I would make it back to room 4. I stood there, my head pressed against the door marked 6, and my hand shakingly grasping the doorknob. The hum was so loud I couldn't hear myself pretend to think. There was nothing I could do but move on. Room 6 was next, and room 6 was hell. I closed the door behind me, my eyes held shut and my ears ringing. The hum was surrounding me. As the door clicked into place, the hum was gone. I opened my eyes in surprise, and the door I had shut was gone. It was just a wall now. I looked around in shock. The room was identical to room 3, the same chair and lamp, but with the correct amount of shadows this time. The only real difference was there was no exit door, and the one I came through was gone. As I said before, I had no previous issues in terms of mental instability, But at this moment, I fell into what I know now was insanity. I didn't scream. I didn't make a sound. At first, I scratched softly. The walls were tough, but I knew the door was there somewhere. I just knew it was. I scratched at where the doorknob was. I clawed at the wall frantically with both hands, my nails being filed down to the skin against the wood. I fell silently to my knees. The only sound in the room was the insistent scratching against the wall. I knew it was there. The door was there. I knew it was just there. If I could only get past this wall. Are you all right? I jumped off the ground and spun around in one motion.
Don't trust that bitch. Don't trust anything in here. That's one thing I can tell you.
Like, do I look okay? I'm scratching at a wall. There was a little girl. She was wearing a soft white dress that went down to her ankles. She had long blonde hair to the middle of her back and white skin and blue eyes. She was the most frightening thing I had ever seen. And I know that nothing in my life will ever be unnerving as what I saw in her. While looking at her, I saw something else. Where she stood, I saw what looked like a man's body, only larger than normal and covered in hair. He was naked from head to toe, but his head was not human and his toes were hoofs. It wasn't the devil, but at the moment, it might as well have been. The form of the head of a ram and the snout of a wolf. It was horrifying, and it was synonymous with the little girl in front of me. They were the same form. I can't really describe it, but I saw them at the same time. They shared the same spot in that room. But it was like looking at two separate dimensions. When I saw the little girl, I saw the form. And when I saw the form, I saw the little girl. I couldn't speak. I could barely even see. My mind was revolting against what it was attempting to process. I had been scared before in my life. I had never been more scared than when I was trapped in room 4, but that was before room 6. I just stood there, staring at whatever it was that spoke to me. There was no exit. I was trapped here with it. And then it spoke again. David, you should have listened. When it spoke, I heard the words of the little girl. But the other form spoke through my mind in a voice I won't attempt to describe. There was no other sound. The voice just kept repeating that sentence over and over in my mind, and I agreed. I didn't know what to do. I was slipping into madness, yet couldn't take my eyes off of what was in front of me. I dropped to the floor. I thought I had passed out, but the room wouldn't let me. I just wanted it to end. I was on my side, my eyes wide open, and the form staring down at me. Scurrying across the floor in front of me was one of the battery-powered rats from room 2. The house was toying with me, but for some reason, seeing that rat pulled my mind back from whatever depths it was headed, and I looked around the room. I was getting out of there. I was determined to get out of that house and live and never think about this place again. I knew this room was hell, and I wasn't ready to take up residency. At first, it was just my eyes that moved. I searched the walls for any form of opening. The room wasn't that big, so it didn't take long to soak up the entire layout. The demon taunted me, the voice growing louder as the form stayed rooted where it stood. I placed my hand on the floor, lifted myself up to all fours, and turned to scan the wall behind me. Then I saw something I couldn't believe. The form was now right at my back, whispering into my mind how I shouldn't have come. I felt his breath on the back of my neck, but I refused to turn around. A large rectangle was scratched into the wood, with a small dent chipped away in the center of it. Right in front of my eyes, I saw the large 7 I had mindlessly etched into the wall. I knew what it was. Room 7 was just beyond the wall where room 5 was moments ago. I don't know how I had done it. Maybe it was just my state of mind at the time, but I had created the door. I knew I had. In my madness, I had scratched into the wall what I needed the most, an exit to the next room. Room 7 was close. I knew the demon was right behind me, but for some reason, it couldn't touch me. I closed my eyes, placed both hands on the large 7 in front of me. I pushed as hard as I could. The demon was now screaming in my ear. It told me I was never leaving. It told me that this was the end, but I wasn't going to die. I was going to live there in room 6 with it. I wasn't. I pushed and screamed at the top of my lungs. I knew I was going to push through the wall eventually. I clenched my eyes shut and screamed, and the demon was gone. I was left in silence. I turned around slowly and was greeted by the room as it was when I entered. Just a chair and a lamp. I couldn't believe it. I didn't have time to wait. I turned back to the 7 and jumped back slightly. What I saw was a door. It wasn't the one I scratched in, but a regular door with a large 7 on it. My whole body was shaking. It took me a while to turn the knob. I just stood there for a while, staring at the door. I couldn't stay in room 6. I couldn't. But if this was only room 6, I couldn't imagine what 7 had in store. I must have stood there for an hour, staring at the 7. Finally, with a deep breath, I twisted the knob and opened the door to room 7. I stumbled through the door, mentally exhausted and physically weak. The door behind me closed, and I realized where I was. I was outside. Not outside like room 5, but actual outside. My eyes stung. I wanted to cry. I fell to my knees and tried, but I couldn't. I was finally out of that hell. I didn't even care about the prize that was promised. I turned and saw the door I just went through was the entrance. And I walked to my car and drove home thinking of how nice a shower sounded.
This just ain't over. I know it. Right now, this ain't over.
It ain't over. As I pulled up to my house, I felt uneasy. The joy of leaving the no-end house had faded, and dread was slowly building in my stomach. I shook it off as a residual from the house and made my way to the front door. I entered and immediately went to my room. There, on my bed, was my cat, Baskerville. He was the first living thing I had seen all night, and I reached to pet him. He hissed and swiped at my hand. I recoiled in shock, as he had never acted like that. I thought, whatever, he's an old cat. I jumped in the shower and got ready for what I was expecting to be a sleepless night. After my shower, I went to the kitchen to make something to eat. I descended the stairs and turned into the family room. What I saw would forever be burned into my mind, however. My parents were laying on the ground, naked and covered in blood. They were mutilated to near unidentifiable states. Their limbs were removed and placed next to their bodies, and their heads were placed on their chests facing me. The most unsettling part was their expressions. They were smiling, as though they were happy to see me. I vomited and sobbed in the family room. I didn't know what had happened. They didn't even live with me at the time. I was a mess. Then I saw it, a door that was never there before, a door with a large 8 scrawled on it in blood. First of all, you got me messed up.
Oh my god, just naked parents sounds bad.
It's not even the naked parents, because yeah, that does sound bad. The fact that you removed and placed their limbs next to their body is disrespectful. And then took their heads off and placed it on their chest, and they're just smiling at me. And all I could think of is like the smile from that movie Smile, or the smile from that movie Truth or Dare.
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Yo, you killed my parents, bro? Mentally, you killed my parents? I don't like that. They're not a part of this. Get them out of here. I was still in the house. I was standing in my family room, but I was in room 7. The faces of my parents smiled wider as I realized that. Why are they playing with you? Oh yeah, you see what we did here? Yeah, we killed your parents, bro. And we're gonna make them smile at you. They weren't my parents. They couldn't be. They looked exactly like them. The door marked 8 was across the room, behind the mutilated bodies in front of me. I knew I had to move, but at the moment, I gave up. The smiling faces tore into my mind. They grounded me where I stood. I vomited again and nearly collapsed. Then the hum returned. It was louder than ever, and it filled the house and shook the walls. The hum compelled me to walk. I began to walk slowly, making my way closer to the door and the bodies. I could barely stand, let alone walk. And the closer I got to my parents, the closer I came to suicide. Girl. Now, okay, I know I said I would have died in that dark room, but I really would have died. When I saw my parents, it would have just been because that would have been my body hitting the floor. No. And they're smiling. I just can't get over the fact that they're smiling. The walls were now shaking so hard, it seemed as though they were going to crumble. But still, the faces smiled at me. As I inched closer, their eyes followed me. Hell no, goodbye. Log out, dead. I died. Goodbye. R.I.P. Brenda. You said what?
It reminds me of the Haunted Mansion where you walk by those statues.
Oh, yeah, and they're just following you. Yeah, just imagine those statues, your dead parents' heads following you. And smiling at you as well. As I inched closer, their eyes followed me. I was now between the two bodies and feet away from the door. The dismembered hands clawed across the carpet towards me. All while the faces continued to stare. New terror washed over me, and I walked faster. I didn't want to hear them speak. I didn't want the voices to match those of my parents. They began to open their mouths, and the hands were inches from my feet. In a dash of desperation, I lunged towards the door. I threw it open and slammed it behind me. Room 8. I was done. After what I had just experienced, I knew there was anything else this fucking house could throw at me that I couldn't live through.
Girl, just wait. I just know it was gonna get worse. Like, they always say, it's nothing worse, and then something worse happens, and then you know.
There was nothing short of the fires of hell that I wasn't ready for. Unfortunately, I underestimated the abilities of the no-end house. Unfortunately, things got more disturbing, more terrifying, and more unspeakable in room 8.
See?
I still have trouble believing what I saw in room 8. Again, the room was a carbon copy of room 3 and 6, but sitting in the unusual empty chair was a man. After a few seconds of disbelief, my mind finally accepted the fact that the man sitting in the chair was me.
Okay. I forgot it was a man because you're reading out that was a girl.
You guys. Anyone who knows me knows I do not like doppelgangers. Like, if I see my doppelganger, I guess I'm the evil doppelganger because my thought is to kill you. Because there can only be one of us. And I don't know what your intentions are. You could want to be my best friend, but I'm going to kill you. Okay? So if you're going to look like me, if you are me, you're going to have to look a little bit different than me. Go get a nose job because no.
I guess I'm the nice doppelganger.
Yeah, you're the nice doppelganger because I see my doppelganger and we scrabbling like, girl, stand up. Not someone who looks like me. It was David Williams. I walked closer. I had to get a better look, even though I was sure of it. He looked up at me, and I noticed tears in his eyes. Please don't do it. Please don't hurt me. What? I asked. Who are you? I'm not going to hurt you. Yes, you are. He was sobbing now. You're going to hurt me. I don't want you to. He sat in the chair with his legs up and began rocking back and forth. It was actually pretty pathetic looking, especially since he was me, identical in every way. Listen, who are you? I was now only a few feet from my doppelganger. It was the weirdest experience yet, standing there talking to myself. I wasn't scared, but I would be soon. Why are you? You're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. If you want to leave, you're going to hurt me. Why are you saying that? Just calm down, all right? Let's try to figure this out. And then I saw it. The David sitting down was wearing the same clothes as me, except for a small red patch on his shirt, embroidered with the number 9. You're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. Don't, please, you're going to hurt me. My eyes didn't leave the small number on his chest. I knew exactly what it was. The first few doors were plain and simple, but after a while they got a little more ambiguous. 7 was scratched into the wall by my own hands. 8 was marked in blood above the bodies of my parents. But 9, this number was on a person, a living person. Worse still, it was on a person that looked exactly like me. David, I had to ask. Yes, you're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. He continued to sob and rock. He answered to David. He was me, right down to the voice. But that 9. I paced around for a few minutes while he sobbed in his chair. The room had no doors, similar to room 6. The door I came through was gone. For some reason, I assumed that scratching would get me nowhere this time. I studied the walls and floor around the chair, sticking my head underneath and seeing if anything was below. Unfortunately, there was. Below the chair was a knife. Attached was a tag that read, "To David from management." The feeling in my stomach as I read the tag was something sinister. I wanted to throw up, and the last thing I wanted to do was remove the knife from under the chair. The other David was still sobbing uncontrollably. My mind was spinning into an attic of unanswerable questions. Who put this there? And how did they get my name? Not to mention the fact that as I knelt on the cold wood floor, I also sat in the chair, sobbing in protest of being hurt by myself. It was all too much to process. The house and the management had been playing with me this whole time. My thoughts for some reason turned to Peter and whether or not he got this far. If he did, if he met a Peter Terry sobbing in this very chair, rocking back and forth, I shook those thoughts out of my head. It didn't matter. I took the knife from underneath the chair, and immediately the other David went quiet. David, he said in my voice, what do you think you're going to do? I lifted myself from the ground and clenched the knife in my hand. I'm going to get out of here. David was still sitting in the chair, though he was very calm now. He looked at me with a slight grin. I couldn't tell if he was going to laugh or strangle me. Slowly, he got up from the chair and stood facing me. It was uncanny. His height and even the way he stood matched mine. I felt the rubber hilt of the knife in my hand and gripped it tighter. I didn't know what I was planning on doing with it, but I had a feeling I was going to need it. Now, his voice was slightly deeper than my own. I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt you, and I'm going to keep you here. I didn't respond. I lunged and tackled him to the ground. I had mounted him and looked down, knife poised and ready. He looked up at me, terrified. It was as if I was looking in a mirror. Then the hum returned, low and distant, though I felt it deep in my body. David looked up at me as I looked down at myself. The hum was growing louder, and I felt something inside me snap. With one motion, I slammed the knife into the patch on his chest and ripped down. Blackness fell in the room, and I was falling. The darkness around me was like nothing I had ever experienced up to that point. Room 4 was dark, but it didn't come close to what was completely engulfing me. I wasn't even sure if I was falling after a while. I felt weightless, covered in darkness. Then a deep sadness came over me. I felt lost, depressed, and suicidal. The sight of my parents entered my mind. I knew it wasn't real, but I had seen it, and the mind has trouble differentiating between what is real and what isn't. The sadness only deepened. I was in room 9 for what seemed like days, the final room, and that's exactly what it was, the end. The no-end house had an end, and I had reached it. At that moment, I gave up. I knew I would be in that between state forever, accompanied by nothing but darkness, but not even the hum was there to keep me sane. I had lost all senses. I couldn't feel myself. I couldn't hear anything. Sight was completely useless here. I searched for taste in my mouth and found nothing. I felt disembodied and completely lost. I knew where I was. This was hell. Room 9 was hell. Then it happened. A light. One of those stereotypical lights at the end of the tunnel. I felt ground come up from below me, and I was standing. After a moment or two of gathering my thoughts and senses, I walked slowly towards the light. As I approached the light, it took form. It was a vertical slit down the side of an unmarked door. I slowly walked through the door and found myself back where I started, in the lobby of the no-end house. It was exactly how I left it, still empty, still decorated with childish Halloween decorations. After everything that had happened that night, I was still wary of where I was. After a few moments of normalcy, I looked around the place trying to find anything different. On the desk was a plain white envelope with my name written on it. I mustered up the courage to open the envelope. Inside was a letter. Dear David, congratulations, you've made it to the end of the no-end house. Please accept this prize as a token of great achievement. With the letters were 5 $100 bills. Okay, you know what? Let me say this.
Yeah, it still needs to be more.
Terry, you're a shitty ass friend, okay? Because I don't even know why you even mentioned this to me. Like, why would you say that? Why would you be like, go try the no-end house? Fuck you, Terry, okay? Like, I don't want no friends like Terry, because that's wild. Like, seriously wild. You got friends like Terry?
No, I don't have friends.
Well, Charmy doesn't have to worry about this because she doesn't have friends.
Yeah,
but
it's
for
me,
all
myself,
my,
and I.
for all my friends out there, you got me messed up. And if you ever give me an invitation to the no-win house, I'm gonna drop kick you. I couldn't stop laughing. I laughed for what seemed like hours. I laughed as I walked out to my car and laughed as I drove home. I laughed as I pulled into my driveway. And I laughed as I saw the small tint etched into the wood. The end.
So we just laughed our way into insanity.
It really is the no-win house because it didn't seem like whatever he did. Just no. Fuck you, Terry.
Yeah, don't trust anybody.
Don't
That's
trust
what I
anybody
learned.
named
And
Terry.
don't go into any houses.
Especially alone, because if it was like, bring your friend, okay, cool. No, it was
And
like,
then they have you kill your friend at the end. That's what some shit would happen.
you know what? It is what would happen. And I'm sorry. I'm going to have to bring my least liked friend. I'm just kidding. Well, I'm not going to know that at the end this is what's going to happen. But yeah, this is one of those stories that, you know what? Once you start, you can never leave. Like,
Really?
There's no way out of the no-end house, you guys. Do not attempt this, okay?
So what are we gonna do with the $500 though? Like,
Buy a therapist in the no-end house because he's still there.
It's like fake $100 bills.
Man, that story is wild.
It is.
Yeah, I wouldn't put this story in the category. I wouldn't put this story in a category of conspiracy because I definitely don't think this was real.
Like a real house is out there.
But that was hell. He went to hell. He went.
It kind of reminds me of As Above, So Below.
I know.
Like no up.
Right.
They're still
like,
down there.
Right. Like they were able to escape. You are not escaping. Like as he went through like every door. That's what I was thinking of that movie. That movie, As Below, So Above. As above, so below. Sorry.
Yeah.
Basically, this girl is trying to find like the Sorcerer's Stone or the Philosopher's Stone or something like that, and she's going deep under the catacombs, and it's just like
in France.
Yeah, it's in the catacombs in France, and she's like going deep in there, and like the only way to get out is to keep going deeper in there. And as they go deeper in there, they basically go through hell, and all of their fears, all of whatever secrets they're keeping comes forward, and they have to face them. And if they don't face them, they die. But that's what I was thinking when I was reading the story. I was like, it's just like every time they go, like every room he went through, it was just horrible. Like he just,
well, you know, at least in this story, they got $500 out of it.
Okay, but he can never leave. Like they didn't get $500. They got to
they
live.
got death or nothing.
Okay, but the ones that got to live definitely need therapy after that. If you haven't seen the movie, I recommend it. It can kind of drag, but it's really good. It's one of my fave movies. I like that movie. So what do you think about the story?
It was really interesting and very fucking scary.
Yeah, see, doing that all alone that's where I'm like, if I had friends and I just look at us and be like, we just gonna die together. But
we're gonna die together.
But to die alone is just like, or to go through that alone is just like, especially with my parents, bro. That's where I was mad. I was like, this freaking house decided that, you know what? Let me throw your parents in there.
Wait, I'm still. How did the ghost get Terry's contact list and just went, "Hey, David, you look right," and then just talk to him?
Maybe like if you like, it's like The Ring. Like you gotta make someone else watch it.
One missed call.
It's like someone else you have to lure someone else in there so you can leave. I feel like that's probably what it's like. But yeah, it was a very interesting story. So I would love to hear you guys' feedback on this
in the comments below.
Please positive comments, because if you put negative comments, I'm going to jump out a window. And then I'm going to be like, the people of YouTube did this to me. No, I'm just kidding. But, so this is our channel, Retro Flora Podcast. As we said, we do, like, true crime, conspiracy, supernatural. So one week I'll do, like, a creepypasta or, like, a supernatural story. One week I'll do a true crime, and one week I'll do a conspiracy. And the reason I'm not doing true crime back to back is because these cases are heavy. Like when I deep dive into these cases, I'm like really trying to get to know the victim. And I can't do that every week because that's really going to cause me to go mad. So I decided to switch it up with some conspiracies and supernatural stories just for you guys. If you guys have any case recommendations, any conspiracies that you want to talk about, any supernatural stuff, like places, just email the retroflorapodcast@gmail.com and we'll look into it. And please don't send no pictures of no dead bodies to this email, you guys. Like, this not that type of channel, you guys. Like, I'm not trying to open no email and it be dead people. Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
You have anything? Oh, sorry. Charmy will also be dropping a book review once a month.
Yes.
So,
probably more than that, but I'll try.
At least once a month.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes she'll be generous and she'll give you more, but for right now, it's once a month. We will be on camera in the future. Right now, we're kind of getting
into the field.
Yeah, setting things up, you know, trying to figure out, we'll have to figure out lighting and, you know, what we want the background to be. So for right now, we're just going to be audio. But give us, like, I want to say, like, 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe less. You know, we'll put the min at 2 months. So, yeah, this is our channel. I hope you
like,
guys
follow, and subscribe.
Bye.
Bye.